Very good of you to come because I know you've had to do a lot of talking in the last 24 hours and 36 hours. You saw Ricky Ross in Scotland.
I did.
Wonderful man. So this will be relatively short, but just to introduce the multi-talented, because you're a singer, a songwriter, a musician, a broadcaster, a historian, a writer.
That's hysteria.
But before we just see if there's any questions, this is a new record, way out west. Can you tell us a little bit? It's getting very close about this.
It's a good record. It's produced by my friend Mike Campbell, who plays with Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. And it's kind of a love letter to the American West. And I invite you to take my hand, and I will take you on a psychedelic journey through the Mojave Desert to set to the sound of twang. It's pretty cool. It's pretty cool.
So, we're going to have some questions. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Dina Andrews from Meadows Country.
Hi.
Hi. What's it like being the son-in-law of Johnny Cash? Has it followed you around? Have you been able to be yourself, or have you got anything to live up to, or have you just done your own thing?
Well, at the time I was Johnny Cash's son-in-law, my brother-in-laws were Nick Lowe and Rodney Crowell, and I think I was called Old Number 9. But the coolest, and Cindy and I were married for, I forget how long. I'm now Mr. Connie Smith, but one of the coolest things that had to do with it, the last days of June Carter's life, she called me one day and she says, I have an idea to talk to you about. I said, sure. So she said, I would like to do a band called June Carter and her ex-son-in-laws. I said, I will pay to be in that band. As a matter of fact, I did. So it was cool. But I think, the thing that what speaks to our relationship, mine and his relationship, is that when Cindy and I were no longer married, John and I were still best friends to the very end.
We've got people here from the UK, we've got people here from Europe, and this gentleman is from France.
Hi, Marty.
Hello.
Jim from highwayfm.com from Paris, France. I played your music in Paris, France, and your album is awesome, really awesome. Thanks for your music.
Thank you.
One question: why did you choose Mike Campbell to produce? He's excellent, but why?
Well, Mike Campbell and I were friends starting back about 1996 when we worked with Johnny Cash on a record called Unchained. The band was Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers and myself, and we became friends there. And I had a feeling that when we went from the South, the American South where I live, out to the West, Mike lives out there in California, and I knew that I needed a hand and a shepherd and a producer, somebody that really understood things out there and to keep us authentic to the sounds and the feel of the West. And so that's why I chose him. He's great, too. One of my favorites.
Amy at Think Country.
Hi.
Richard touched upon it when he introduced you, that you have a list of a million things that you have done in your career, from photography to writing to the music. How do you feel like all of that has shaped you as an artist? And obviously you've worked with a lot of people, you're married to Connie Smith, another of greats, and having all these people in your life and all the influences from your other, I guess, hobbies, how do you feel like that shaped you as an artist to bring you here now and do them out?
I started so young. I was 13 at the Grand Ole Opry with Lester Flatt. And I wasn't old enough to drive, so I lived at his house with he and his wife till my parents could move up. But my peers, the people that I hung out with, was Roy Acuff and Bill Monroe and Lester Flatt and all those old timers that kind of invented country music. And it was a great way to start a musical life. It was like starting at the very, very top and being advised by the people who invented the whole craft. So that set me on my journey. And my life has been very rich with those kind of relationships all down through the years. And what I shared by knowing those people was their wisdom and their songs and their philosophies and their general way of thinking. And so it has followed me throughout my whole life. And when I became my own band leader, and when I became my own songwriter, and all the things that I do, it was all of that served as a great foundation for me as an artist, because I thought, that was my roots. I knew who I was, and once I stayed true to that, I knew who I was, and so anything could happen on top of that, but it keeps me grounded. So all of those people I owe a debt of thanks to.
Gentlemen here.
Peter, listen to this. Welcome back to London.
Hello.
Since I spoke to you at the Queen Elizabeth Hall about all sorts of Johnny Cash and Johnny Cash's house, it's fantastic. But since then, I found some fantastic footage of you playing live with Roger McGuinn, who's a hero to me. Could you tell us how you get on with him and how you blend the 12-string and the 6-string?
Well, the guitar that I play on stage every night belonged to Clarence White. It was the guitar player with the Byrds. And Roger, of course, and Clarence were friends. And there was an incident that happened at the Grand Ole Opry in Nashville in 1969. The Byrds had recorded a record called Sweetheart of the Rodeo. And it is now regarded, I think, as kind of a milestone record in the history of rock and roll and country music. Well, the Byrds, Graham Parsons and Roger and those guys, they were booked on the Grand Ole Opry. They went by Nudie's Rodeo Tavern and bought some suits that looked like Porter Wagoner, and they came to the Grand Ole Opry with love in their hearts for country music. And it was not accepted or understood by the country music audience, and they were basically booed. And it was an awful moment. It was just handled wrong. And I always thought that it was just basically a black eye on the face of what happened. So several years later, I ran into Roger McGuinn on the road in Pennsylvania. And I said, I would like to apologize to you. I mean, I wasn't even in town at the time. I said, I would like to apologize to you for how you were treated in Nashville, Tennessee. He said, oh man, we forgot all about it. I said, well, I haven't. I said, would you give us another shot at it? And I said, I would like to invite you to come to the Grand Ole Opry and play with my band. And we would like to have one more crack at this. And so that's what happened. He said, sure. So Roger came to Nashville, and he stepped out on stage. I introduced him at the Grand Ole Opry. The place gave him a standing ovation. And we played Turn, 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 Mr. Tambourine Man on the Grand Ole Opry. And he got 2 more standing ovations. And he was treated like the royalty that he is. So it got settled. That's a good thing.
Well, you've done a lot of good things, Marty, and I've been thinking about the different places I've seen you play in the UK. You've done the Royal Albert Hall, Queen Elizabeth Hall, you're just saying there, the Arches in Scotland, all these weird and wonderful places. Have you ever played the O2 before?
Never played the O2.
So you're going to, this is great. I mean, 16,000 people.
This is big, right?
This is big.
Yeah.
And it's great, and people will be there, and it's all wonderful. Do you have a favourite place in the UK you've played? Is there one place that's magical, particularly?
Not necessarily. I really love this country. I'm still learning this country because I haven't been here as much as I'd like to. We're coming back this fall for an extended tour.
Good.
The dates will be announced. But I remember the first time that I got the gist of it. I'd heard about these kind of things happening. But Johnny Cash wrote a song called 40 Shades of Green that we were in County Cork, Ireland. And when he started singing it, the entire place started singing every word. And I'd never seen that happen before. And he started crying a little bit, and I did too. But I thought, man, these people bring their hearts to the show over here, and it was beautiful.
It's amazing how this happens. Bailey Brown was over there, who was here last night, very young, and she sang a song which she didn't know anyone here knew, and they were singing it back to her. It's just amazing.
What was that song? I'll sing it today. I need help. Good job.
I mean, it's the world's first vertical video. It's a long story. One more question, and then we've got to let Marty go. He has a lot to do, yes.
Hi, Zoe from Best British Country Music.
Hi.
You've played in the backing band with like Johnny Cash, and then of course playing your own music. And I wondered if and how your mindset changes from playing other people's music before people, and from when you're standing centre stage playing your own music.
Now come closer. I need to hear you a little bit. One more. I'm sorry.
It's not coming out of the microphone.
I wondered if your mindset changes from playing other people's music in their backing bands to being centre stage playing your own music.
I used to stand behind, before I started my own band, I started my first band when I was 9, but when I got serious about it, to really do it, I used to stand behind other people I was playing, and I go, how do they do that? How do they do that? But the thing that, at the end of the day, whether you're playing in your own band or you're playing behind somebody else, it's about the song. A great song, like it happened last night to this lady over here. Everybody's in on it, and it makes standing in the middle of the stage a whole lot easier. Songs are great magic carpets. They can take you to wonderful places. But it helps to have the right band. It helps to have an audience that's into what you're doing and that kind of knows what's up. So what it boils down to me is fun. I still have a lot of fun on stage. It's my time of the day that everything, it's my box of crayons and I have a big time. So it turns into fun.
Well, we really appreciate you being here.
My
It's the
pleasure.
biggest crowd we've had in here for a press conference, and we're really pleased that you're here. So thank you so much
Thank
for
you,
coming.
sir. Thank you, guys.